Rising.
Woohoo, everybody. It is 2025. And it's myself, Zane Bridgers, and Miss Justine Carrier. Just the two of us on a cozy evening here in January. And energy has been hectic, so hectic that we haven't found the time to do this. But yeah, let's start briefly by turning it over to Justine to tell us a little bit about the Gregorian calendar and infradian rhythm.
Infradian rhythm, yeah. So this was maybe mentioned in a previous episode, but the Gregorian calendar, as many of us feel and know, is a synthetic inversion meant to manipulate our organic structures and flow. And if you do the calculation for 13 28-day months, which would go with the lunar calendar, which is what we would call an infradian rhythm. So infradian refers to anything beyond the circadian rhythm, so anything more than a 24-hour cycle. And in this context, that would be a 28-day cycle, which of course then aligns with the feminine hormonal cycle as well.
Was it to suppress women?
Wow,
Is that
shocking.
even possible? Nothing about this system suppresses women.
And the lunar cycle itself also has, lots of history, and we could talk about that and tell stories about the moon as well, and the moon's own manipulation around women's cycles. But 13 28-day months would leave one extra day, and the 13 months would end between our current March and April, because if you think about the actual words for the months, September 7, October 8, November 9, December 10, so then January 11.
Deca, yeah.
Yeah, Deca is 10. So then you'd have 11, 12, March would be the 13th month. And of course, with 28-day months, the dates would be shifted. And so I feel that the new year would occur around the spring equinox, which feels correct, that you have this winter that's the closing out of the year, the time to reflect, go inward, go inside, and then in the spring, the earth comes alive, and that would be the shift of our calendar system, which of course is doubly then inverted with tax season being around the exact same time. So,
and we were just talking about a lot of false flag kind of cabal type events. They love that time of year, that kind of late March, early April window. And that's because they know when the real New Year is actually occurring, and so they use that energy against us.
Well, and it's also Easter, which is a very interesting corollary that would align with the new year cycle as well, in a reverted story of, Christ, and all of that would be resonant with the true calendar system. So here we are.
Anyway, not Happy New Year.
January 2025.
Not actually Happy New Year, but it is an awesome time of year, that whole window from the winter solstice kind of into our Gregorian calendar New Year. There's a lot of potent energy, a lot of access. We always notice our access increases, our ability to visualize, to vision in our meditations. Like, we tend to spend a lot of time in the sauna this time of year, and it's a really incredible moment to get clarity on big picture stuff, to have more quiet evenings, quiet space in general. So it is a potent moment. It's just not necessarily what they're telling us it is. So.
And, it did occur almost synchronously with the new moon cycle, which is very exciting nakshatra, and sets us up for a year of powerful experiences, but victorious experiences. So that's a great
Do you
alignment.
Remember, before we go on, this year at the New Year countdown, we were over there at my parents' house. We had a party here in Taos, New Mexico, and for the countdown to the actual New Year at midnight, Justine and I both just got this really nasty feeling we should not be doing this, because it's perpetuating a fake looping system. It's like the artificial time construct looping.
Absolutely.
And when we celebrate that, we energize it as if it's a real thing versus it's not that we should, like, no reason not to have a party. That part's great. Like, we should always have parties, but.
Well, everybody, I could just feel when we all kind of brought our glasses together to cheers that, wow, I don't want to participate in this. I don't want to put my energy to loop this mechanism forward. And it perpetuates the false reality of what is attempted to be a loop, a system that repeats
to be a loop. No,
itself.
it's not attempted. It's been going on.
For sure.
26,000
but organic
years.
creation can't sustain a loop. It's a spiral and it's ever expanding outwards. So they do their best, but you can't keep the kitty in the bag.
So, right. So that's all that. So what's been happening for Justine and I has been a very intense little window of time here. There's definitely been a lot of consistent attempted infiltration that we've been aware of, kind of new levels of potency around all of that, both when we were spending time out on our houseboat, interesting like glitches in the matrix, time looping events, almost like signatures on various really scary, upsetting experiences there. And then returning home to our house and having a whole situation blow up with the, should we just say it, with the cartel family, corruption in the county government, just a whole deal. And so we've been involved in kind of a rapid 2-month fast track law school education as we try to dig through municipal laws and so many different layers of this really gross, distorted system that we're supposed to call our justice system here on Earth in America, but all over the world. And yeah, it's been a real test for me of my nervous system and kind of my capacity to hold my center in the face of what are potentially really upsetting circumstances of what feels like a very direct attack on the field of our house and the medicine space that we've spent now over a year building. And so the reflection there is that this is really a moment of mastery and things that we've maybe hid from for a lot of our lives, such as putting ourselves out in the open, dealing with authorities. I mean, those two things have always challenged me. I really don't like being in public-facing situations, and I really don't like dealing with bureaucrats, administrators, law enforcement, any of that type of stuff. And here we are kind of voluntarily putting ourselves right in the smack dead center of that situation, because the challenges have landed quite literally on our doorstep. And that's kind of the avenue that remains for us. And it's not fun, but there is a recalibration happening that I'm definitely aware of. I imagine you're aware of too.
Oh, yeah.
Of kind of facing those fears head on and learning to claim our power in the midst of systems that have been designed to make us feel hopeless.
I would also share for me personally that my biggest fear is losing the land. And my most tender place in my heart is the earth. That's why I've had millennia of lifetimes here. And so this experience is what Saint said. It is our mastery. We are facing our deepest fears. We are facing the things that bring us the most pain. And we bring this up not to talk about our personal lives so much as to illustrate what is happening for all of us right now. In our circle here and our broader circle, we are witnessing our friends and our families and our loved ones facing simultaneously their deepest fear, losing loved ones, being alone, having to manage something in your life, sickness, healing from sickness, injury and pain. It's all occurring so rapid fire. And so I do also think this Gregorian calendar reset is somewhat of a relief, because 2024 introduced such deep cutting things. I mean, for other people, it's war, and whether the events are personal and close or far away and global, this is a simultaneous attempt at infiltration and distraction and bringing humanity down and making us suffer, and our mastery, requiring us to participate in facing those deepest fears and moving through them. And that's the way that we need to look at these things. And so if you're not swept up in the global, overlaid dramas that may or may not be accurately represented, I'm sure none of them are, but it will come in personally, so that you move through what you need to move through.
And that's, I mean, in essence, there's two sides then to every event that we experience. So, and it's not necessarily like everybody's having this at the exact same moment. It may have come up in your life, a little bit earlier in the past few years. I mean, hopefully not. It could still be ahead. And it's not like everybody needs to go through a trauma, but if there's things that we've been resisting, sort of moving through, personal blocks, this is a potent moment to do that. And there's two sides. So, I said before that we've felt a lot of attempted infiltration into our lives, things kind of like we've stuck our heads up too high, we've shined a little too bright, and we caught the awareness of the control system, and when something shines bright, the control system reacts. It tries to shut that light down, contain that light, invert that light. We all know that. But conversely, there's also the organic side, which is, if we have wound patterns, or we have, let's say, lineage aspects that are preventing us from accessing our highest potential, living to our highest potential, and we've been avoiding certain things because they're unpleasant or scary, this also can be the propellant that helps us step into new potential and into a new chapter of our lives. And this moment requires courage. It requires bravery. And anybody who's ever stood up to control systems is aware of that. Anybody who's ever also attained any form of enlightenment has moved through intense personal challenges in their inner work, and probably seen things that are, most would consider traumatizing as well. That's so much of the work we do with the medicine, is helping people to face their biggest fears, their biggest blocks, their biggest traumas, whatever that may be. And once you look at it head on, it's like you're released from those shackles, and you're free to begin to soar again, to reclaim your organic blueprint, instead of hiding, trying to always keep these nasty, icky things at arm's distance. And so humanity at large is in this window right now. And yeah, it's it's not fun, and it is scary, but the reward on the other side is going to be so super worth it.
I just have a beautiful quote to share. It's a Carl Jung quote, and it might not be perfectly accurate, but I think it's so illustrative of what we're discussing and this moment. You do not become enlightened by meditating on the light. You do so by making the shadows conscious. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're experiencing, are these places of doubt and fear coming up to surface. And as we do so, we increase our bandwidth and our capacity as well. And so you also might not be ignoring things. It's just that as you look at yourself and humanity in this place that we have come to clear out and help evolve, we're going to increase our bandwidth. It's not going to just be delivered to us. As we increase our bandwidth, then we're able to face other things. And so also recognize in yourself the strength that you have because of the circumstances that, as Zane mentioned, either had arisen for you, are arising now, are yet to come, or maybe you're holding space for somebody in your life or people in your life who are in those experiences. And that's just, a beautiful thing as well. So really recognize yourself for that capacity.
It's funny. I was thinking back to starting kind of this whole journey with the medicine work, and really the thing that gave birth to this podcast. And I really didn't think of myself as having a whole lot of shadow aspects. I feel like I encountered a lot of those when we built our house, because that was such a tough moment for us, and we were under so much stress. And it also is kind of circling back now with the whole situation with our land, but maybe clearing some of the wounding that developed there. But yeah, it's, I kind of, it was like, oh no, that's not really my thing. And then you go into the cleanse process and it's like, oh my God. Because we don't have necessarily the best self-observation. That's just part of the way things work here. And so it's really, even if you're somebody, you're like, oh, that's not really my challenge. There's always more layers. There's always more layers. And we clear something, and then we get a little moment of clarity, and then we're like, wow, there's more here, more where that came from. And if we back up a little bit and we look at this on a planetary scale, we could look at it on a universal scale as well, but let's start with planetary. There is an unthinkable amount of what you might call karmic pollution here around Earth, because this system has been hijacked and locked into looping trauma patterns because of how much war and suffering has taken place on the planet. And without the opportunity for beings to then subsequently come and heal that, as it was designed in the organic blueprints, we are living amidst an incredible amount of energetic pollution. And that energetic pollution is coming to the surface right now, and we are processing it. And especially those of us who are awake, who are sort of, as Ginger always says, the frontliners, those of us who are kind of in the trenches right now, because we are aware, at least to some degree, of what's happening here on Earth, that this is the culmination of a great battle, great interstellar, intergalactic wars, that we, carry maybe a disproportionate amount of that clearing capacity. And so, that's intense no matter how you look at it. You could be, what we've kind of noticed, because we went to our houseboat, and that's kind of always our getaway. It's spectacular, and it's a place where we tend to regenerate and recover and replenish. This has happened twice now. It happened in 2020, and it happened this year, where you get out there and you're like, oh, there's no escaping it right now. The energy is so dense, and there's so much, it's like bursting at the seams. There's so much to process. We get pulled into service no matter where we go, and especially if we've worked with this medicine. We all know that it opens our capacity to, to kind of use the exopolitical term, to drain the swamp, but quite literally to drain the overlaid hell realms and suffering that's been attached to a planet that really should be a galactic seed planet, a birthing place of creation, as opposed to a sewer, And so it's our mission to clear these things off the earth. And as we do, we move ourselves closer to that optimal timeline. And I can see Justine's bursting with something, so you should share what you got.
I was just going to give a little bit of context, if I may.
Sure,
and this may be a greater thing that we continue to discuss. And the analogy that I really like to use is a clogged drain. And we've mentioned this before. We've talked about 3D reality as being the inflection point, the inversion point, the 0 point. If you look at a vortex, particularly a vortex that connects two bottles, and you spin the bottle, just give a plug for Vibrant Vital Water, our friend Randy, who makes beautiful vortexes. When you spin them, they funnel down, and there's a 0 point where it becomes inverted. And in this 3D reality, we have a clog. It's a clogged drain, and the density is backing up into these higher dimensions. And so it is our work to clear that clogged drain out so that energy can move not just through the third dimension, but all of the dimensions above. And to give a little bit of backstory on kind of this karmic debris field, I think it's valuable to explain what we refer to as the soul recycling grid. This came up in conversation recently, and our friends were really kind of intrigued by what we had to say. And so I think it's helpful to kind of explain what we've seen. Many have seen this. We're, of course, not the first to say really any of what we share, where our astral plane, which spatially would be the fourth dimension, if you will, around the earth, became a control apparatus. And what we refer to as the Archon grid was established there, and Zane can speak more to that, but it essentially created a Dyson sphere around the earth, which a Dyson sphere is a mechanism that in science fiction lore is established around a star to consume the star's energy. And it isolates the planet, and simultaneously there's a quarantine on the earth.
It isolates the star, in science fiction. In this case, it's
right.
Surrounding Earth, and it's harvesting the energy of organic life. So it's much more equivalent to the movie The Matrix, if you've seen that, of, humans are kind of harvested in these farmed for their energy like a battery bank. That's essentially what this planetary artificial grid structure around the planet was built to do. It's to harvest human energy, and it's also to reflect inverted thought forms and programming, broadcast programming. So.
Exactly, which is something that is referred to as the noosphere as well. And I would like to mention that in addition to the soul recycling grid, though, is a trap for souls and creates mass looping incarnations where you collect karmic debris, which is not the natural order of things. And these pendulums that swing and collect energy, and our karmic looping system is an artificial construct. And there is a balancing force of the organic creation and all of the cosmos. And yet the karmic debris that we have, which is in the Vedic system referred to as like a ball of wax, is not something organic beings are meant to carry around and continue to balance and rebalance and traumatize and then balance. And it's this looping mechanism. And so this debris is accumulated over time en masse. And it's also kept us in this reincarnational structure that is not evolutionarily focused and not focused on beings being able to move beyond this earth realm, or new beings to come into this earth realm as stewards. And so while we've seen that this is deconstructed and the stellar gateways are open,
I wouldn't say fully deconstructed.
Being deconstructed now, I think it's valuable context to just mention, and is maybe something to continue talking about, because I think it's of interest to a lot of people. And with that, then, as Zane mentioned, it also reflects negative thought patterns. And so the noosphere, I had a personal out-of-body experience where I went into the noosphere, and it's like this electrical, static energy surrounding the entirety of the earth, and each kind of bolt of lightning is connected to a human, and it's their thoughts, and it's dissonant with creation. And Martine Prechtel talks about this in Secrets of the Talking Jaguar, when you go out into the wilderness and the human mind is like a grating feeling, and animals are sensitive to it, and we all experience it. And so this structure of our mental body is also part of this archon synthetic grid structure.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, okay, so now we've opened up the whole can of worms.
We've opened up the whole thing. I just wanted to get into some context.
No, it's good. I mean, so okay. You're a little guy. You're a little organic being. You have a channel. Every organic being in creation has a channel, a thread of energy that connects that being back to source. The synthetic overlaid grids that were installed sequentially, layer after layer, along with technology, etheric technology, and physical technology, to control us and to pull us into this consensus matrix reality, was done by hijacking that thread of organic energy, and instead of it translating your divine blueprint that's then projected through you as a being into your waking reality stream, it inserts inverted snippets of code, if you will, inverted thought forms. And then those thought forms manifest instead of your organic blueprint. And so, instead of going out and having a sort of heavenly experience in nature and communing with all of these living systems and interacting with the living library of Earth, which has codes from all over the organic universe, you go out and you find yourself passing the McDonald's, and there's a dude begging on the street, and someone almost crashes their car into you, and then you have to go buy like motor oil at Walmart or something.
Or you're out in the wilderness and you have a commercial that just pops into your head, or you're thinking about money, or you're thinking about some stupid meeting that you had.
Or you're trying to meditate and all that's happening. And so that inverted thought stream, that's not actually part of us. And this kind of comes back to the core challenge that humanity is facing right now. We think that our thoughts are us. We think the construct of an identity, the little shell that we've formed around ourselves, is us. And, there's a lot of kind of teachers out there who talk about this. When we identify with a certain mental construct that is us in a certain sequence of thought forms, we're identifying with a duplicate personality that's been created. And if you've ever looked into sort of the straw man, or in America it's called America State National, some people call it sovereign citizen, you learn that your birth certificate created basically a false copy of you, an all caps name that is referred to as your vessel. And that vessel was, according to Admiralty law, lost at sea. And so there's this dead, fictitious version of you that's then perpetuated from your birth certificate to your passport to your license to, it's the thing that has a bank account and takes out mortgages and all of these different things. It's not you. It's literally a fake copy, like a carbon copy of you. And all of the inverted systems are attached and overlaid onto that fake copy. Meanwhile, the real you is this incredible organic being with a birthright in this system, who essentially has unlimited power here as long as it's cooperative with the other organic beings in the same system. And you're a creator God. I mean, put quite simply. And so they overlay this shell version, and then they convince you that that is you. And everything in your life from that point forward is designed to convince you that your power and influence ends at the little tiny container of that shell that they've put around you. And meanwhile, they're using your incredibly juicy, vibrant life force to power their inverted grids and systems. So, what's fascinating is this is done quite literally. When we're born, we know from America, but I believe this is everywhere in the world, and your birth certificate is printed on bond paper, then you are traded on the stock market. And by the time, if you're well educated and you have good jobs and maybe higher education, you might be worth anywhere from $100 to $300-400 million by the time you're kind of, mid-late adulthood. And meanwhile, you're getting paid what? 50 grand, maybe you're making six figures. Oh boy, like $100,000 a year. But what about that 300 million? That is literally the differential of how much energy is being harvested out of this system. And we are not aware of the potential that we hold if we were to reclaim that energy. So, you can talk about it within the systems, but you can also talk about it energetically. I mean, the game's over, right? As soon as we reclaim that. Now, the same thing has been done with Earth. And we've talked in the past about simulation theory. And Justine and I both know firsthand from our experiences in the wilderness, in the outdoors, that there is a real living, breathing, organic planetary consciousness here. We've communed with it. We've seen it in its brilliance, right? Do you agree? Like
Yes.
That's just
we've talked about
not
that.
something we can personally deny. I mean, people who have never interfaced with that's one thing. But then if you wake up and you're in a situation like we are, and you get out your laptop in the morning and you're reading through legal documents and you're talking to lawyers and municipal regulators on the phone, and you're making trips back and forth to town and digging through deeds and going through title searches and doing all of this nasty, nasty, unpleasant stuff, are you occupying that same reality as when you're, laying on the ground? Maybe you've had a little psilocybin or something, and you're watching the earth breathe or a plant breathe. You're watching the living systems express themselves. To me, the answer is no. And it brings us to the conclusion. This is kind of coming in real time for me, so it's still a little shaky, but there are two Earths. There's the real organic blueprint Earth, which is the galactic seed planet, incredible, magnificent planet, one of a kind in our universe. And then there is a fake duplicate overlaid Earth. We could call it Counter Earth, as some movies had, or Earth 2, or Overlay Earth. That overlay previously was anchored onto the Earth using technology. But that technology's ability to keep it anchored here is slipping right now, because there's a massive insurge of light. And the planetary grids are waking up. The planetary consciousness is waking up, and human beings are waking up. And so as that grip begins to slip, that was kind of cool how that rhymed.
That rhymed.
What I was seeing just this morning is it's almost like a conjunction. It's like there's two Earths overlaid on each other for this moment, and they are moving in opposite directions. And one is moving to heaven, if you will, if we want to just use simplistic biblical terminology, and one is moving to hell. One is organic, one is synthetic. And for a matter of time, they appear to be the same thing, and we are oscillating between the two in real time, constantly, every single day, depending on where our attunement and focus is. And we're also, clearing out certain patterning that has historically kept the two intertwined. And it is this incredibly potent choice point to decide which timeline we want to go on. because the synthetic is going to take as much energy as it can. It's trying to capture as many souls and as many living beings to power its false light matrix. And meanwhile, the organic is reawakening to the incredible web of life that is going to emerge and skyrocket into what we call the new octave. It's like this massive, resounding, standing wave of creation. And so we are in a moment of peak intensity right now. And everything that false light system can do to try to convince beings that it is the reality and that they should join in that reality, especially things like accepting technology into your body, in lieu of the external false light grids, the soul recycling grid and all of those structures continuing to function, because those are breaking down right now. The only other alternative for that timeline is to put that technology inside of our organic bodies, to make it part of our consensus waking reality dream, that we've consented to this technology inside of us. And that's a lot. What do you think, Justine?
Well, and so we have our purpose illustrated so clearly, and all of us are here in our niche to express in different ways, and simultaneously we have stepped into this moment to recognize that this is happening. And for so many of us, it truly is not about the choice. The choice is made, the ever-present nowness of the new octave and organic creation is alive and well. And in a non-linear construct of reality, we have stepped into this moment to help as many beings as we can through this window of time into the organic timeline. And the ideal outcome is that there is not enough energy for a synthetic Earth at all. And that's so much of what we're here doing. And so the awakening process isn't so much to ascend out of here and make sure you're on the right timeline, because that's already a given for so many beings. It's truly to step into our power to help process this excess karmic wax ball and help humanity as a collective shift through and move through, so that we're not powering any kind of synthetic anything in any timeline or space-time or construct of reality system in this universe. We're done.
We're all bub.
We're all bub.
We're all super bub with that.
Yeah, we're super bub with that, right?
We're like totally super duper all bub with it. Yeah. And I mean, do I go into the dreaming thing? I mean, that's like a whole other level. I just finished The Art of Dreaming by Don Juan. It's a really powerful book if you take it literally.
It's by Carlos Castaneda, but as we know,
by Carlos Castaneda. But yeah. If you take that literally, you see a culture, the Toltec culture, that for tens of thousands of years has been refining through, it's a mystery school tradition. I mean, that's probably a good way to think of it. Trying to refine techniques to escape the soul recycling grid and the matrix put around Earth. And, these guys, they're sorcerers, right, is how they refer to themselves, the Toltecs, have literally been to every possible corner of this matrix. They've contorted themselves, contorted their energy bodies, learned how to dream travel, learned how to travel into what they call the realm of inorganic beings, which to me is the AI false light grid systems and those inverted worlds, which are, built off our energy. And every single one of them got trapped and stuck in that system. And it wasn't until the newer lineage of what Don Juan calls the new sorcerers that they were able to finally figure out a way to break out of this system. And the way they did that is through recapitulation, right, Justine? Is that accurate? That it was through recapitulation?
Yes, because you offer your story essentially to what they refer to as the eagle.
Your identity,
archon,
right?
Right.
Like it's basically your identity.
To the archon grid, to the eagle that consumes your energy at the moment of death so that you are free.
So you give it basically your false overlay personality, and it's like something that it can feed off. And meanwhile, your actual organic soul aspect, in that moment, they figured out a technicality where they could escape out of this system. So that was done by a very small number of these sorcerers in their lineage. A lot of that material is from the 70s or whatnot. So let's say since the 1970s, and a little before, because it's not like a brand new lineage, there's a small cohort of beings. And I think there's others who figured out through other lineages how to exit the system. We're at a very different point now because we're bringing the whole thing down. It's not like a couple of us getting out of here is not an acceptable solution to organic creation. And the craziest thing in all of this is that we chose to enter a trap that was designed to be inescapable. And okay, Justine found the passage in The Art of Dreaming. So let's share that for a little context.
Yeah, and Zane shared this to me a couple of times. I think it's a really, really valuable. And this book, The Art of Dreaming, is my favorite of the Carlos Castaneda books that I've read. And so Carlos Castaneda is meeting with this woman, and Don Juan set up this meeting. And so here he is with this woman. She told me that her art was to be capable of projecting her intent, and that everything I saw around me was her intent. She said in a whisper that the church and the town that they were in were the results of her intent. They did not exist, yet they did. She told me that she came from a line of sorcerers who knew how to move about in the second attention by projecting their intent. Her story was that the sorcerers of her line practiced the art of projecting their thoughts and dreaming in order to accomplish a truthful reproduction of any object or structure or landmark or scenery of their choice. She said that the sorcerers of her line used to start by gazing at a simple object and memorizing every detail of it. They would then close their eyes and visualize the object and correct their visualization against the true object until they could see it in its completeness with their eyes shut. The next thing in their developing scheme was to dream the object and create in the dream, from the point of view of their own perception, a total materialization of the object. This act, the woman said, was called the first step to total perception. From a simple object, those sorcerers went on to take more and more complex items. Their final aim was for all of them together to visualize a total world, then dream that world and thus recreate a totally veritable realm where they could exist. When any of the sorcerers of my line were able to do that, the woman went on, they could easily pull anyone into their intent, into their dream. This is what I am doing to you now, and what I did to all the Nawals of your line. Whole populations disappeared dreaming like that.
So that's an amazing section of this material, because it's describing the mechanism by which I believe we find ourselves here. In both versions of that world. But, there's another passage, and I don't have it at my fingertips right now, where Don Juan explains to Carlos basically that he had the epiphany that that's what was happening here in this reality. And in the process of the dream becoming so convincing, we all forget where we actually came from and where our actual origin point is. And if you translate this into an interstellar starseed incarnational framework, and you include the part where our memories all get wiped at birth here, and if you look around at many of these starseeds and see how they are lost in this world and how they've forgotten their origin, forgotten what they're here to do, maybe they're caught up in some form of hedonism or gluttony or just busy chasing one fun experience to the next, that epitomizes the design of the soul recycling grid and this entire construct. We incarnated into this system to re-infiltrate it, if you will. We figured out a loophole, a way to sneak ourselves in here, and Justina's talked about this on previous medicine journeys, to sneak ourselves into this system, and then through a series of events that we've coordinated with our astrology and our projected probability lifelines, to awaken here. Once we awaken here, then the thread of organic creation starts to project back through us. And the more we are able to clean out our bodies, the more we're able to clarify our channel, the more accurately we're able to render a dream that is designed per the organic blueprint as opposed to the synthetic infiltrated blueprint. The great awakening of humanity right now is this exact process. When you're going to work, when you're going to your 9-to-5 job, and you're commuting in rush hour traffic, and you're stopping at Costco on the way home to buy all this shit and whatever else you're doing, you know, most people in that reality line right now are having big questions. And the answers aren't clear yet because there's still too much distortion being projected through. But every single human being who has the capacity to move through an awakening experience is going to be doing that right now.
And we're seeing it all over and need to hold space for where each person is in that spectrum of expansion in themselves. And simultaneously, we don't necessarily need an answer to anything. We just need to leverage this process. And so even if it's for 2 minutes a day to take space and dream the earth in all of her resplendent organic glory. Dream yourself walking upon that earth. Dream your children, your family, all of it. Let's collectively intend this dream so severely that it is real. And as we have said so many times, unplug the devices that are perpetuating a false dream of war and suffering across the whole planet. I just want to know what's going on is not going to work anymore because we create what is going on. And what is so much more important than spending those 20 minutes, that hour, those hours consuming a synthetic dream of a suffering reality. It is time for us to use that time and our own energy to create, to energize, to dream our dream of what it truly is to live on such a jewel of a planet and to be her stewards.
Yeah. And I think just one other caveat, don't compartmentalize it. When the visualization exercise ends, let's say you're, in meditation or something, don't then step out into a different reality. Oh, that was visualization and now I'm going back to reality. Hold it. Hold it all day. Hold it through every situation in which you're able. And that's the test before Justine and I right now. And it's the test before so many. Can we continue to project our highest timeline, the optimal outcome, the greatest potential, into every inverted experience that comes across our path? Can we remember that the very nature of the constructs that are attempting to trap us in beliefs of self-limitation or inevitable outcomes are being falsified? Because the system creating those constraints has no birthright here in organic creation, and we do. And when we claim that and we clear out all of the infiltrative energies, all of the attempted hijackings, and restore it to our blueprint, which is encoded all the way through every aspect of our organic being, the only outcome is the one that we project truthfully through our field.
A very quick little exercise that I think is valuable. We've maybe even mentioned a version of it before. When you're in waking reality, moving around, and you notice particularly a negative thought projection of, oh, there's going to be traffic this morning, or, oh, this meeting's going to go poorly, or, oh, fill in the blank. Chop it up with a machete in your mind. Say out loud, cancel, cancel, cancel. Draw with red Sharpie in your mind a red X over it. Burn it. Whatever you want to do to cancel that out and create space after you've canceled something out. So let it come in. Let it move all the way through. Clear it out and develop your own little way. And then in the void that comes from clearing it out, then visualize the situation. And if you're not sure how it's going to go or the outcome, you can just wrap it in blue light. Just wrap the whole thing. If you're facing a person in some meeting, just wrap the two of you in that light and just intend that your hearts communicate with each other, or see a road clear, no traffic, just you. And the more you practice that, the more it will just become your everyday, all the time, really quick. It's a very quick thing and helps to reinforce this process.
Yeah, I do that in a little bit of a different way, little caveat. It's like when I see an inverted thought form come through, and it can be funny at times because you're like, that's so not me. Like, where did that come from? I'll track it backwards. So wherever it entered into my field or into my body, and often I'll feel it, latch at a parasite, I'll track it back up and I'll re-infiltrate the broadcasting network, the synthetic programming that brought it in. It's almost like putting a virus in the computer system that delivered that distortion. So following it all the way back up and burning out the entire circuit. And the more of us that do that, I mean, this might sound pretty abstract, but we literally have that capacity. If everybody tomorrow in the consensus waking reality agreed that we're done with this matrix, it would fail immediately. Blink of an eye. And so I think, because we're kind of ending on this dreaming reference your dreams. Think of how fluidly things can move in your dream state. How you can walk out the door from your house and suddenly you're on a ship and there's a whole new cast of characters there, and and then you're flying and whatever. And, that type of fluidity is what we're learning to bring into a reality system that's been chained, shackled, and put in a straitjacket for so many, tens of thousands of years, if not longer, and learning to break out of all of those confines, which are programs. They're like computer programs, synthetic programs that are being broadcast through us that are trying to convince us that this waking material reality is limited and that we're limited and that everything has to follow these finite rules and operate according to these constructs and these gross overlaid parasitic systems of law and government and corporations and financial systems and other mental constructs of scarcity and suffering that we've put onto the earth through our projection. So first you own your part, then you watch the infiltrations come in and actively remove them, and then you replace those with your blueprint broadcast. If everybody on earth could do that, bada boom, we're there. We're done. So,
yay!
That's the task for 2025. It's a really intense moment. It is, I believe, we're still very much in that peak intensity. Things are going to start resolving, and there's incredible supportive energies right now. There's massive things moving on the inner earth plane, those beings coming up to support the surface timeline. As we all know, there's incredible interstellar support from all of our star lineages, and that's quickly moving closer and closer here to our surface timeline, surface reality. But it's those of us who are incarnated in a body here inside of this matrix who hold the key to deconstruct it.
Yeah,
and that's why we chose to come into a body. I mean, if we could just stay up on our interstellar spaceship and work from there, I mean, come on, who wouldn't choose that, right? But it's we're in the trenches here. I mean, we're literally in the middle of a battlefield, and the battlefield is for our minds and our beliefs and our projection ultimately. And when we reclaim that projecting mechanism per our organic birthright, there is no other opposition. There's nothing else. I mean, that's it, right? We're it.
We are it. And don't forget to enjoy being here. We're here together. We're the ones. Wee-wee.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.